Butler Cubs Athletic Association, the Coaches Roundtable. I'm Ed Codi. Welcome our guest, high school and college football and basketball official Jordan Grady. Jordan, I guess you're excited to get started just like everyone else for the upcoming season.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me today.
Jordan, so far I was reading, we've discussed sports from every angle with COVID-19 and what's going on. 80 WPIL officials have opted out for this season. What are you hearing from some of the officials that you know of and their concerns for opting out?
So I'm going to assume the concerns for a lot of the officials would be the risk of COVID when you have you're older or may have some underlying conditions. Or you might have family members that are in the high risk category. I can't speak from a personal standpoint. Of course, I have my concerns, but nothing that would keep me off the field or court. So I'm going to guess it has something to do with close family ties or themselves having some type of underlying conditions that puts them in that high risk category.
Everyone talks about football and COVID-19 and the play on the field and that, but I'm thinking the indoor sports like basketball and volleyball and even wrestling would be of a greater concern. So you do both. You know what it's like on the basketball court. It's continuous play. You're running up and down the court, and the players are face-to-face, and you're often face-to-face with them. How much of a concern do you have about doing the indoor games?
I honestly have very little concern, if any at all. Obviously, when you're indoors, there's a little less airflow, tighter playing surfaces. When you look at a big football field with a lot of space, most of them being outdoors compared to a basketball gym, especially locally here at the high school level, tight facilities. So it's definitely an elevated risk indoors, but it's certainly not bothered me or having me lose any type of sleep.
So what will change in terms of officiating this year with COVID-19? Are there things they're asking you to pay extra attention to? Or are you to enforce the sidelines in football with coaches and players on the sideline wearing masks and the number of players permitted on the sidelines? Have your duties extended to that?
So I don't know if they've extended that. So what we're being told is under normal circumstances, there's the 30-yard line where no players or coaches can go past. But because of COVID and the amount of players that might be, the players can now extend down to, I believe, the 10-yard line, just to create more space. I do work a short wing position in football, so I'm on the line of scrimmage, and I'd like to say one of my strong suits is I have good sideline control. I have a very personable personality too, so it allows me to build a relationship with the coaches and the rest of the staff. So I probably won't be doing anything different. I'm not sure from a coaching standpoint. I'm sure coaches will be required to wear the mask and things like that. I think the mask for the officials and the gloves for the officials, I think it goes crew by crew. Our referee has decided that we are probably going to wear masks while we officiate. And gloves will be optional. Now, from my position, I'm in charge of spots when the ball's ran or thrown to my side of the field. And that requires me to pick that ball up and toss it to the umpire in the middle of the field. So I'll have to weigh, am I going to be touching that ball? Should I wear a mask? So that'll be kind of a referee choice.
And then no whistles this year, right? You're going to is it a buzzer or something that you're going to?
So we'll have whistles on the football field. The mask will obviously make it a little bit more difficult, but there are options. You can have your whistle under your mask, and there's also some other masks that have been built for airflow to make that whistle and mask cover more comfortable. I did try. I bought a couple of the electronic whistles just to see if they were going to be a solution. There's just no way they're going to work.
Not better than a whistle.
Yeah,
Nothing's better.
Even the best, the Fox 40, they have the handheld whistles. You click it, and if there's anyone in the gym, no one's hearing that. You got to literally, lay on it, and be very active with your hands to try to get them to see that you're, blowing your whistle. So unless someone comes in the 11th hour with an actual electronic whistle that can produce the sound that a regular whistle will go, I don't think electronic whistles will work.
In terms of testing, Is it mandatory that you be tested and be tested periodically during the season?
So from a high school level, no, there's no mandatory testing. Not really sure on the college level yet, because a lot of the conferences that I'm fortunate enough to work with are either unsure of their season or have postponed. But from a high school standpoint, testing is not mandatory. Now there are some health checks when you're entering the facility. You have to have you been exposed? Have you known to be exposed to anyone? Do you have any cough?
Getting
They
the
read off the
temperature
symptoms.
checked,
They get the
things like
temperature
that.
checked.
But
So
but
they're
the
doing that.
the official the PIAA officials are not requiring you to have an actual COVID-19 test.
Correct. Yeah. It's not.
Let me ask you. We mentioned 80 officials who have opted out, and last year there was a huge article about just finding young people to come into, men and women to come into officiating. It's becoming more and more difficult. What are your thoughts on that? What have you learned, and why is this the case? Before there were like many people were trying to get into officiating. Now it's gone the opposite end.
Yeah, I'm not certain why the younger generation doesn't seem to be as interested in officiating, but it's definitely a problem. And then obviously with the opt-outs for the fall season, it's going to be even tougher. I know, my association I belong to at the high school level has done a really good job of holding Zoom trainings to kind of refresh everyone's memory on the 5-man mechanics in case we have to go from 6 on a Friday night to 5.
Or maybe even 4.
Maybe even 4, yeah. So my chapter is really active and doing a great job of refreshing the mechanic side of things in case we have to not have a full crew on a Friday or Saturday. The money's great. I think I don't know what would cause a younger generation. Maybe it's the social
Some of it
media.
said basketball. It's the harassment that they're getting in basketball from a lot of fans and even coaches that have caused some of them to opt out.
Oh yeah. That's always going to be there. I think that's part of officiating, and I think that's how you can separate yourself as a recreational official as opposed to a great young talent who has real potential. To get into this now, it's a great time if you're younger. If you are dedicated and show that you at least want to pursue this option, there's a lot of great veterans in the officiating world, especially here in Western Pennsylvania, that'll do everything they can to help you accelerate quickly. So if you're thinking about it, now's a great time because you could be at the collegiate level in a few years. You can really the sky's the limit, and that goes for anyone getting into it now because of the shortage. There's some real opportunity there.
Well, Jordan, everyone talks about the players, the games, and everything, but nothing can happen and occur without you guys and the job that you guys do. These games couldn't be played, so wish you the best of luck this season and stay healthy, and look forward to talking to you again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'll be right back with Ellen George. I'm back, joined to my right by the Swami George Abraham, to my left by the Tiger Albert Campman. Jordan Grady on, official, you guys know him. Very cautious. We know the 80 officials have opted out. He's not concerned. He has a job to do. He's lost 20 PSAC games because of the shutdown of PSAC football in the fall, but he's ready to go.
Great job, Eddie, because a lot of people just look at the kids, and that's all we're thinking about.
Can't play without these guys.
Yes. And there's a lot of older officials that had to make major decisions. He's young, vibrant, believing he's going to be fine.
Yes.
But we do know that they're right out there on that field, too. And the other night, I had to clean the balls for a scrimmage, and the officials had to run out to the field. A lot of changes on the field, too, besides making decisions.
And he mentioned that he has to handle the balls, so he doesn't know if he's going to wear gloves or not wear gloves as a result of it. But I'm hearing more officials are concerned about the indoor sports, doing basketball, volleyball, and wrestling. Wrestling, they got to be right on top of those guys.
Wrestling's the most dangerous of all.
I would
in my
agree.
opinion, that's
I
what
would
I think.
agree.
With
I would
being an
agree.
official, I mean, you're right underneath them, right, that close. I'm thinking about what whistles they're going to use. I've seen a variety of whistles
Well,
being used
he said the
different
whistle's
games.
still the best, and they do have those electronic buzzers, whatever you want to
They use,
call them. But
excuse me, but I saw 2 games this weekend. Both used different whistles. One used
Yeah.
the regular one, and the other one used the
The buzzer,
Yeah,
the
buzzer type,
electronic
yes.
device.
See, basketball, it appears to be late when they use the electronic. It works in football better. You don't recognize it. Basketball, the call appears late.
He thinks the whistle's better in basketball.
Yeah, we observe him in basketball.
Yeah, we see him all the
I've had
time.
him a bunch of times. He does a nice job.
Let's move on to Spotlight. How about Pine Richland grad and James Madison University quarterback Ben Dinucci? He has made the cut and will be the Dallas Cowboys' third quarterback behind Zach Prescott and Andy Dalton. Kudos to him.
Absolutely.
George called me last night and told me that story, and I said, this is one of the greatest things happening. You know, here's a guy that went to Pitt and could have got discouraged.
He's on a
Said-
short hook.
Yes, and
No.
said, they don't like me. They don't want me. I'm a local guy. I'm going to go show what I can do, and just kept getting better and better. And now he's playing in the NFL.
And you give him credit for this. You know, he turned down that going to Penn, the plays we all said, to stay at Penn. Then he comes to Pitt with high expectations, and it didn't work out. But pulls together, goes to James Madison, leads him to a couple of division championship games, and now to be part of the Dallas Cowboys, just a great achievement.
Yeah, a tribute to a kid, to anybody watching our show, to kids who say, I don't care what anybody else says. I can do this.
And playing for a Western Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah, and not
At
playing
Dallas.
at Pitt, which was a break. They take you out in the goal line.
There were some games he could complete 3 in a row and then throw an incompletion, and he was out. And Narduzzi said, well, he knew this was going to happen, to which Dinucci said, never told me about it. So you had a major miscommunication problem there, and I think that's the big reason why he left, and it turned out just great for him.
And one of the most important things of coaching is the expectations and tell them exactly what you want. It keeps happening at Pitt, so it can't be the players every time. Something's going wrong with the coaching staff.
How'd Flacco do? I can't remember. I think he won a Super Bowl.
I think he did, yeah.
I think he did, yeah.
Hey, Shaler grad and Pitt tight end Kevin Rader, he made the Steeler practice squad. Last week, we were pretty hard on Elliott Donald. Now, this comment coming from him, maybe I'll give him a pass now. He said he's not playing for Central Catholic this year because he's out of concern that he's living with his grandparents.
Oh, I like that. If that's true,
So if
then
that's the truth,
he should
then
have said that
we
right
give
off
him
the
a- he
bat.
should
Oh
have
yeah,
said
no
that off
question
the bat.
about it. He should have said that right off the bat because family comes first, and I understand that.
Hey, high school golf, we're finally getting all these sports starting off, and top scores, Blake Bertolo of Mars at 36, Paige Scott of Butler, she's been terrific the last few years with a 37, Nick Crowley of Mars with a 38, and Ryan Steigerwald of Mars with a 39. And in harness racing, Brady Brown of Slippery Rock, he won 2 races at the Meadows. Our stories of the week, and it has to be the start of the football kickoff last weekend for college football, but it's picked up more steam. It'll be full throttle ahead coming up here. There was a game last night on BYU and Navy. Not much of a game. I expected a real tough, close game. It was 31-0 at the half, and ended up what, George?
55-3.
Just it looked like Navy hadn't practiced at all, and BYU looked like they were in mid-season form, but often and running, and not to mention that, the high school games all kick off, and then all the other high school sports are coming in over this weekend. And then, of course, Thursday night football will come up. Houston at Kansas City. There'll be 14,000 fans there and 61,000 empty seats.
Interesting that a lot of thoughts go into these early games. First of all, because of the practices, nobody's having these hitting, not a lot of hitting going on. BYU
That
might
showed
be
with Navy.
BYU might be one of the top 10 teams in the country. So that's what we don't know.
We don't
We're
know.
automatically thinking that Navy stinks.
Well,
But how do we
Navy was
know that
11
BYU might be
2
loaded?
last year, Navy.
I can tell you this. BYU's not the team they've had the last few years, and they have a schedule where they had to grab bag because of being independent. They're going to win them all.
Okay.
Troy, teams like
The way they looked last night, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
said. I'm not sure which way.
Yeah.
They have a 3-year starter back at quarterback, and all their offensive
Oh,
linemen have returned.
Wilson's very good, and that's the key.
And they're
What you
usually
said,
24,
the offensive
25
line
years old.
came back.
They didn't touch them out. They
The
didn't-
offensive line.
They didn't touch them.
So early in the year, Eddie, I would say look at the high school teams that have
Yeah.
offensive lines back and colleges that have offensive lines back. That's the dominating
And,
force.
and at least 2-year starters at quarterback.
Yes, that's a good
No,
combination.
and I take it a step to the pros. The teams with new coordinators, new coaches, new quarterbacks.
Could be tough, huh?
I don't see how.
Hey, and the game of the week, as far as I'm concerned, will be Sunday with Tampa Bay at the Saints.
420.
And they're happy to have that on TV because there'll be a lot of eyes on it. There'll be a
Tremendous.
lot of eyes on that.
Hey, by the way, speaking of high school football, Butler has 7 games. I have a home and away series with Erie, McDowell, and with Cathedral Prep in Erie High School. So those 6 of those games are there, and the other one is with Slippery Rock. This is their first year, 6A in District 10. How do you guys see this working out to an advantage for the Butler football program?
One of the worst luck that could happen for a team is it happened to Butler.
They open up with
They
Prep.
had some games in the lineup that they could win until they're doubling up with Prep and double
And Mal.
McDowell.
And we'll be there. We'll be
That
at
is-
Butler High
that is
at
our
Art
fun.
Bernardi Stadium to do the McDowell game on September the 18th. You hope they get off to a decent start there. They open up at Prep.
Oh my!
What a powerhouse!
You understand? Prep's powerhouse. They're just
See,
not.
They can play at any level
Any
they want.
level.
Oh, I'm reading the other day. They said they're young. I said, what, is the border to New York closed up? They have borders. People don't understand. They think it's a high school. They have borders.
Oh, they
They,
really
they
do.
have guys at Notre Dame, at Clemson,
Absolutely.
all over the country.
This is no break. Now, no Pine,
No
no
Central.
no NA. That's
No,
a break.
that's a big
But
break.
Prep's no break.
But I'm talking about, didn't they make the schedule thinking that it was going to get easier?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. So it didn't work out that way.
Well,
because
of,
they got Prep and
they,
McDowell.
they didn't
even-
expect the
A
home and
double-
away
yeah,
series.
Let me say, too, Erie High is not.
I don't know much about them.
They're
George.
not Cambridge Springs.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
No.
Okay. So it could be some runaways again.
I hope not.
Yes. Butler maybe. Let's hope that happens. Butler might be a lot better.
And I think their numbers are up, so it did work.
Their numbers up to 56
Oh,
players.
beautiful.
It worked
Good job.
Good, it
Great.
worked.
Let,
Yeah.
let's see
good,
how it
good.
works out through the season. Hey, Steelers Monday night at the Giants. No fans. The Steelers favored by 5.5. Now, how concerned, and this not just for the NFL but in sports in general, about fans being limited. Some places no fans at all. We know in Pittsburgh, the month of September between Pitt and the Steelers will be 0 for 5 with those football games in terms of fans. How concerned should the NFL, college football, even high school, with fans staying at home now, watching the games on TV, and eventually will they become comfortable enough that they will not return to the stadiums? Should the NFL and these other leagues be concerned about this?
I wouldn't. Because the people I know who go to those games, they go for the full day experience. That's what they don't just go over to the football game. They leave it. They get there at 8:00 in the morning. They meet the whole crew that's been together for 10 years. They love the experience. So I wouldn't be for the NFL. Now, I don't know college and pros. I mean college and high school, but pros don't have to worry a bit.
Most of them have waiting lists. Not all, like Jacksonville.
Yeah,
there are a
most
few
of them do,
places.
right, George.
But I know Vegas, you couldn't get a ticket.
Oh, it's a big sell
In
over
Pittsburgh,
there.
you can't get a ticket.
No,
You know,
right.
so we're our local
There's a
place.
long waiting list.
Yes.
Exactly.
Now, the NFL will allow teams to advertise on tarps covering the empty seats. They'll find any way they can to make money. For Jacksonville, this is nothing new because they've had 19,000 empty seats for the last
Exactly.
10 years that they've been doing it.
As you said, we talked about it for the last about 7 weeks. Money is ruling. It rules, no question.
You got
That
some
Klein
creative
guy,
people.
The guy that owns Jacksonville, there will be no GoFundMe's for him, though. He owns soccer teams in Britain.
He has some cash already.
Yeah, no one's feeling sorry for him. Elsewhere around the NFL, Cam Newton named the starting quarterback and a captain for the New England Patriots. Does he have enough receivers? Now, check. In his 9-year career, he's only had 3 years where he's completed 60% or more of his passes. How do you see him being the starting quarterback here in New England?
Well, the key for him will be if Bill Belichick says to him, I want you to run. When Cam Newton was running and passing, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in football, he always automatically decided, I'm going to become a passer. And when he did that, he went down the tubes. Running is going to be the key for him.
I agree. Did you notice the little swipes? Belichick and Brady taking Belichick saying Cam's the hardest worker and he's there. Have you noticed
Oh, for
they
sure.
can't let this go?
His teammates voted him captain.
Yeah.
What's that say?
Yes.
It's never going away. It's never going away. Their egos, both of them,
They're-
are so out of control.
And the other
Absolutely.
players, they want to win now because they they're
Oh,
thinking,
yes.
Brady got all the credit. We want to show that we can win. We'll
the
see
truth.
what happens when they open up with the
I'll tell you,
Dolphins.
they lost 6 off their defense, though.
Right, but he has a way, George. He's lost players off that
No,
defense
he
for
has.
years. He finds someone you never heard of from Central Arkansas State, and
Happens all
plugs
the
them
time.
in, and they turn out to be tremendous
No,
players.
it's accurate. You
Well,
can't
but
argue
picking
with
up Cam Newton was gigantic. You understand? He knew. When he had Sitcom, whatever Sitcom, how you
Stidham.
say it, he was not going to win. He was not going to win any
Stidham.
games.
Right.
With Cam Newton was an MVP of the league.
Took a team to the
If
Super
he
Bowl.
If he goes back and plays like he was, you're going to say, man, they're pretty darn good
He's
again.
6'5", like 255. This guy's a monster.
Hey, Washington releases Adrian Peterson, quickly picked up and signed by Detroit. The Steelers released the Duck, but they signed him to the practice squad, and then they released Ryan Switzer, who was expecting a big year, and then they claimed former quarterback Josh Dobbs.
That's why you have to be good every year, every practice, because there's kids coming out of college and what's your job? And they're young and they're fast and they can run. That's what happened with Switzer.
Yeah,
And guess who signed Leonard Fournette?
absolutely.
Tampa Bay.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're trying to have an all-decade team down there.
He ran for 800 yards last year. It's not like he didn't, run it all. I mean, 800 today, they don't run the ball.
And Houston signs quarterback Deshaun Watson to a 4-year, $160 million deal. I got a phone call from a friend. He says, "Do you think that he's worth it?" I said, "It's going great. That's the way things are in the NFL today. If you don't keep these quarterbacks if you don't pay them. So $40 million a year.
It's like a big merry-go-round, you guys that don't follow football. And the quarterback whose contract is up next gets the most money. It's just like getting whoever's next will do the same. And one thing about him, he grew up in a Habitat for Humanity house. He was dirt poor. This is just outstanding. He's the kind of guy, last year when there was some type of work stoppage, he went in and gave his first check to the cafeteria ladies.
We always root for those, don't we?
He's a giver.
root for those.
He's a
And
giver.
you mentioned that, and look at Goff. It took the Rams to the Super Bowl. He got that big contract. That's just the way it goes.
Eddie, once again, I always give you credit when you hit on something on fire. You said the word going rate. That's how they do it in positions in the NFL. If a quarterback
Right.
says, you're making this, and they call their agent and said, listen, I'm as good as him or better, this is what I expect. And it's called the going rate. It
We
is.
have a buddy, it's an agent, and you have to look at those contracts carefully, though, because a lot of times the money's backdated and they never get it.
Well, Bud Priest's getting almost $16 million for this 1 year. He turned down a
How about the
multi-million-dollar
lineman
deal.
for the Steelers?
Cam
Getting that
Hayward.
kind of money at 31. I
At
thought
30,
that
he's
was,
32, Cam
I
Hayward.
thought that was a little much for 32.
Four-year extension, which he's not likely to be there
He'll
at
be there too.
36.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
for that, but in order to sign him, they didn't want him to go somewhere else. I'm thinking he took the deal. Maybe he thought I could get more money somewhere else, but at this point, why?
Yeah.
Why leave?
Two things. Number one, he's one of the top 5 defensive tackles in football. And number two, he is a community guy. He truly
Yes.
does everything
He
in
loves
Pittsburgh.
being in
He
Pittsburgh.
loves Pittsburgh. So they'll say, listen, I'll give you a little more money, maybe play 3 years instead of 5, but we're going to try to
He
keep
has
you.
asthma or something. He has a chronic health problem.
He has asthma.
Okay, is that
right.
what it is?
And then the big signing looked like Baltimore wanted to snatch Jadeveon Clowney,
Yeah,
and he went to Tennessee. That's a big sign.
Tennessee just went down in my eyes.
Well, Baltimore would have been big because that's the one area that hurt them last year. They didn't have an edge rusher,
Yeah, I got it. I'm just kidding.
and they could have used them.
Because when he plays his best, he's a great player. He just doesn't show up all the time.
He's better now as a role player.
He makes those two spectacular plays. Like the day in, day out, he's not there. Right. He's the rabbit, not the turtle.
That's why I have to play him a little less down. You're right.
Yeah.
The other thing that came to mind when I was looking at all the signings, lots of free agents who thought they had the team made, all of a sudden these teams started signing guys, dropped off other teams, and they lose their job. How about a kid that just calls his mom and says, I made the team, Mom, and 20 minutes later he calls back and says, they just dropped me because they
And
signed
the
them.
salary discrepancy between the practice squad and making the team is humongous.
Huge. Hey, TV ratings, NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, NASCAR, you know that feeling someone's looking at me or watching me. Now they have to be asking who is watching us. The NBA ratings are down 20% overall, 28% down in that 18 to 49 age group. And since 2012, this is a concern for them, down 45%. One of the big games between the Celtics and the Bucks drew just 1.3 million fans. Major League Baseball is even worse. After opening game of the season between the Yanks and the Nats, it drew 4 million. It's been downhill. A regional game a couple weeks ago drew 1.49 million. How about this? The Mets in Washington, 298,000, and the game between the Angels and the Mariners, 249,000.
I'm usually not a ratings guy because I want to see how much advertising. But if the advertising shuts down because of it, then it becomes serious because they make all their money off of TV
It'll
deals.
manifest
Didn't you
itself
say
in
that with the NBA with the
it'll
new
manifest
contract?
itself in that. In other words, this time they just wanted to get it on. So, but the next time, the rates will be according to who was watching.
That's what I thought.
But this
Yes.
last time they had a bonanza. You realize they're on how many networks?
Billions, right? Not millions.
Billions.
Billions,
Oh,
right?
it's
Yes, yes.
But they're concerned very much
Sure.
about the ratings.
They have to be.
What's up? National Hockey League up over 50%, and the most watched game of the year. Pens and Canadians, that first game, 5.7 million watched that game. The PGA Golf Championship had over 5 million. And who's consistently killing on the ratings? NASCAR.
How about that? Isn't that amazing?
NASCAR's killing
Isn't
them
that
on the
amazing?
ratings. Hey, guys, I want to bring this up. Give me your take on it. What I call selective justice, hypocrisy, and a double standard. The NBA makes $4 billion in their deals with China, and China has one of the most repressive regimes against religious freedom. They are persecuting people over there, and yet several former NBA players have spoken out against it and called it a double standard. And then there was a young athlete, 17-year-old star, African American in New York, going to St. John's. He was shot and murdered this summer. And it's dismayed that no athletes there in New York or anyone like LeBron James come out and spoke on behalf of this kid and his family.
Yeah, the China one is the one that bothers me the most, is that the people who make the money, as long as they're making money on it, they'll stay quiet. That's the way it looks like to me.
It's selective justice.
It's the big money, too. It's not just little money.
Absolutely. I said that. I tweeted about it months ago. They picked their spots. That's fine, but how about there? And then the one guy said something, and he ended up in big trouble. Boy, he got his hands slapped badly. Said something about, the NBA being, hypocritical that they take money from them, but yet at the same time.
It was a player.
Absolutely.
Hey, guys, we want to get this in the passings. The Georgetown basketball coach John Thompson at 78, Hoya Paranoia, national champs in 84. They lost title games to North Carolina at turnover and then lost. No one would have beaten Villanova that night. But here's the thing about John Thompson. He kept an inflated basketball on his desk to emphasize to his players the value of an education.
He always got it. Black Lives Matter right now. If he was living and he'd be to the front of it because he understood what these kids are. He coached basketball hard, but education was always his thought.
And sadly, we mentioned the passing of 300-game winner Tom Seaver, age 75, Hall of Famer, 5-time 20-game winner, part of the '69 Miracle Mets team, and Hall of Fame outfielder Lou Brock. Over 3,000 hits, 118 stolen bases, and one of the biggest trades one-sided ever in Major League Baseball history when he was traded from the Cubs to the Cardinals for pitcher Ernie Broglio.
Yeah, when you look at the Tom Seaver, he was my favorite pitcher of all time, number one. And Brock, if he played today, he's still 22 bases because they wouldn't allow him to run.
That's it for us. We've run out of time. We'll see you next week.